Hey, welcome to Mad Dog's After Show, episode 100. Woo! You are along for the ride with the Mad Dog and Cole, the gatekeeper, Farrell.
Pre-recorded on a Thursday afternoon, it's Mad Dog's After Show.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
I decided to fly through the air and live in the sunlight and enjoy life as much as I could, and that's just what I'm doing.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Man, it's been 100 episodes of those inspiring words, flying through the air, living in the sunlight, and enjoying life from the great Mr. Evil Knievel, R.I.P. Dude, what an honor it is to be recording with you again. We are so fortunate to be able to be doing this. And you know the reason we get to do all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, because we got to give 100,000 thank yous to our men and women of our armed forces and all
Amen.
those first responders that keep us safe in our day-to-day activities, whether we're having fun or not so much fun. We literally couldn't do this podcast wasn't for those brave Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. And the families of those that gave all POWs, MIAs, KIAs, thank you so much for your sacrifice. And of course, our veterans, man, just shout out. Thanks for all you've done for us over the years. And, you know, as we're pushing into this Christmas season, we want to be sure and send thoughts and prayers to all of our service people around the world who won't be home for Christmas. Know that all of us here at Mad Dog's After Show appreciate you, and we'll be praying for you and your safety throughout the year, but also during this special Christmas season. Dude, I mean, who would have thought? Here we are, 2.5 years, 100 episodes, still the same great partners and sponsors are with us. We're so thankful for our friends at Kicker Performance Audio. Find them online, kicker.com, on Instagram at Kicker Audio, on Facebook, Kicker, every other Tuesday night, right there, Kicker Unmasked Live on their YouTube channel, their Facebook, and on X for all your premium audio needs, marine, car, truck, off-road, personal, whatever you need, kicker.com. Of course, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear, Bomber Badass Eyewear, the only eyewear Mad Dog approved. It's bombereyewear.com. Find them on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Hit their website, look them up, bombereyewear.com. Over 40 styles of frames. And man, I can't even tell you how many lens combinations, but you can get everything from these incredibly sexy boogie bombs that I'm wearing with the mirror iced blue lenses in a polarized safety lens to your basic clear safety lens, OSHA approved, ANSI 87. Man, check them out, bombereyewear.com. Of course, the Premix podcast and our dude Cole sharing his passion for all things desert racing through the lens of a camera. Man, hit him up, slide into his DMs over at the Premix podcast on Instagram. Check out what races he's going to be at. Have him get some shots for you. He does a great job and happy to help out. Of course, also available for your 2025 MC or event announcer needs. So again, slide into his DMs on Instagram, the @ symbol ThePremixPodcast. Hit him up. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film. Man, turning all of our video carnage into beautiful things on our YouTube channel. Mad Dog Media. She can handle anything you need, video or photo still wise, from pre-production to post-production, everything in between. Look her up on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film. Hey Keeks Marketing handles all of our social media templates, artwork, logo work, stuff like that. You can find her online, heykeeks.com, on Instagram at Hey Keeks Marketing for all your social media needs, website needs, everything you need. Yo, Hey Keeks. Or look her up on the webs, heykeeks.com. Without further ado, folks, the one and only Cam Reimers, Cam Reimers Motorsports, IMCA, Dirt Track star. Here he is.
Hey, Lauren, how's it going, man?
Good, buddy. Good. Thank you for jumping on first. We really appreciate you getting on. I know we've been talking about it. It seems like for a year or more, and so I'm thankful we're able to work within your schedule to get you in here.
The after school schedule starting to get busy with the kindergartner and stuff, and she's involved in dance and things like that. So you're like, can you work tonight? And I'm like, oh, I'm on dance duty again tonight. So running her all over the place, and then between all of our races, we're and farming, we're really in this little 4 to 6 week lull that we basically get. The work doesn't stop, but it certainly tones down here. So it's really nice. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I imagine, because you run a pretty hectic schedule. Plus, like you said, you're like blue collar, hardworking farmer, man. You're like, that's a full-time job on its own.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, it's not as down and dirty as it used to be, as when my grandpa did it. You know, we're spoiled with auto steer and stuff like that and the machines, but there's still, it's a heck of a lot of work still, you know, and just even in the cab, there's a lot of hours. We had a bunch this fall that we don't normally have, with fall tillage that normally doesn't happen, but we've just gotten kind of some weird soil, in a weird soil rhythm right now that's not good for us. So trying to break that cycle, and and then racing. We schedule about 80 a year, 80 races. Oof. And this year we were a little over 70 after rainouts and stuff like that. We try to make up as many rainouts as we can. We live in a good part of the country that has an abundance of racing, so normally we can make them up. This year we had a really wet spring and had some canceled, but yeah, we grinded almost all of them back.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know, following your social media, which, by the way, folks, Instagram is at Cam Reimers, Reimers, right? 21.
Yep. And then Facebook's on the Cam Reimers Motorsports over there. That's
right.
A lot of the dirt track and a lot of the IMCA crowd certainly lives there on Facebook. And then, I try to show a little more of the personal side and family side and all the, the old moto background that I enjoy over on the Instagram side.
Yeah, for sure. It's always fun to watch, but holy cow, you are busy throughout the year. But I kind of want to touch back. You talked about the old moto side. So I know this, but our fans don't. Where did this whole motorsports, I mean, 80 races a year in a modified, and we're going to get to the modifieds and all that, but where did this, like, what pulled the pin on the grenade that is Cam Reimers Motorsports, dude?
Well, my dad's always been into all sorts of motorsports. He was always going to the racetrack. It's funny, one of the racetracks that we race the most, Boone Speedway, where the Super Nationals are, he used to go with his dad all the time. He started taking me. He got me an XR50. It was an old one. I don't even remember the year, but it was in the 70s, metal tank, things like that. I mean, I was on cloud nine. I rode that thing all the time, and was really into that. And you could always tell so he's never raced. He doesn't have a background in racing and whatnot. Try to help me every step of the way. certainly with racing, but we didn't really come from money on the, the deals where it's like, oh, you want to go motocross racing? Let's go buy brand new dirt bikes and go,
Right. Yeah.
we didn't have that. So yeah, I rode the hell out of this XR50 with a, or I got to take that back. I don't know why I was saying XR50. It was a Z50. So old Z50, and finally kind of outgrew that, needed something bigger, which is really interesting. I just got my daughter that's in kindergarten. She just went through getting her first 50 size bike. She used to have a Stasic, and we went through the same process that my dad did with me. He bought me that Z50, and he said, "It's up to you to sell it." And I'm very little. You'd think you're not gonna have a 5-year-old sell a dirt bike, right?
Right.
But we lived on a state highway, so that helped, and set it out front with a for sale sign. Knew what I wanted out of it. I'd saved up, a couple $100 other bucks, and had been, searching the classifieds and things like that on maybe what we could get to upgrade. And he was with me out there when road bike guy going to Sturgis had a bunch on his trailer, a bunch of road bikes heading to Sturgis. And I saw the taillights come on. I used to stare out that window just waiting for taillights. And they finally turned on. He came back. We negotiated. I got $350 out of it.
Nice.
And I had a few $100 other bucks. And we went, and we got an 80. And it wasn't that we weren't getting anything new enough where it was 85s. We were getting the 80. And
Right.
it was same deal. It was metal tank. It was in the mid 80s year wise. And I mean, I was absolutely stoked with this thing, and yeah, so I just put my daughter through this same situation, because I thought a lot of my grinding and things like that really kind of all stemmed right there. Like, if you
Right.
want something, you're going to have to figure out how you can do it with whatever means possible. You're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to try to sell and talk about the good things of it, be honest on the things that aren't good about it. And it really kind of instilled me. So that was probably, I think, really where the life lessons started, and kind of grinding this race deal out. And metal tank there, and rode the heck out of that. And for whatever reason, I was always kind of into the 4-wheel stuff, just being around dirt track racing and being so avid around here. I thought it was cool when you slid the car sideways, right?
Yeah.
And you counter steered and do things like that. Well, we had a couple guys that would chase the ATV Motocross National Series around here, and it was pretty good. And that scene was good. Getting out in front of it, I have probably quite a few regrets on swapping over to the 4-wheel side of things, because I was pretty good in the moto world. Never really got to the high pro status, but before the recession, when the economy was pretty strong, I had a deal with Can-Am, and this was kind of like right out of high school and whatnot. So I was able to have factory support from them, and was
Nice.
racing around, but it never really recovered, because like the first years that I was getting in, there was support everywhere. There was semi trailers supporting. They were on ESPN with this new series called WPSA, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. But yeah, it was kind of weird. As I got faster, the support started to go away, and I was also looking at guys that were kind of staples at the time, like Chad Weenan and Joel Hetrick and them guys. And I'm like, man, I'm like 3 seconds a lap off of them, and like I've got a lot to make up, and they're starting to kind of struggle on what looks like this rock star, make a ton of money racing motocross deal. So I kind of back to the hustle thing. I'm like, what can I do? I want to race forever. I want this to be my job. Well, the short course off-road was pretty big at the time. You saw Travis Pastrana doing it and things like that. I'm like, I'm going to take all of the money that I've made with Can-Am and doing this factory ATV motocross thing, and I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to start this off-road team. And did that, secured some good sponsorship. That's when I met Kicker. I've been with them since 2000 and 2015, which would have been my
Wow.
third year in short course off road. We raced the Torque Series. We won at Crandon, battled for some points championships. We were pretty tough competitor there. And
Yeah,
yeah,
you actually just sidebar here. You say it casually. You won at Crandon, but you actually won a world championship at Crandon, right?
yeah, we won on the world championship weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my first win too. So we were really good. I had a lot of podiums. We had a ton of success in there. I was never like winning all the time. I wasn't that guy. We started to be more competitive as that series kind of started to fizzle as well. It had originally, when I hopped in, had a lot of energy drink sponsorship, and there was a lot of money flowing around there. And those teams were really hard to compete with.
Yeah.
It started to go back a little bit to its roots with a little bit more grassroots racing, and that's when we really started to click off podiums pretty handily every weekend. And then yeah, it just as life started, and I'd had good connections, and the truck count was kind of getting smaller in short course off road at the time. I kind of poked around to some sponsors and whatnot and was like, listen, Dirt Track was getting live streamed and things like that. And it started to have a pretty good footprint and always good on-site attendance. And our socials were fairly strong. And I'm like, what if we just, break down, lower our ask on what we're doing on some things sponsorship wise. And we go try to play around in this area. And we did, and it's been ultra successful from then on. We've had success on the track, off the track. We race a ton, but I sleep in my own bed probably 80% of the races, which, I mean, there's not very many motorsports that allow you to do that. So that's kind of how we ended up here, which is crazy, because as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, I was going to the Boone Speedway, and that's where my love for racing started. And now I'm right back there racing a lot of Saturday nights and Super Nationals there.
Well, and I see pictures from that stuff all the time, and you're always, one thing I really like, and I'm sure all your sponsors love, you're always open to interact. Like, you've always got fans there, especially little kids. So it's important like that. What inspired you? It's funny that now you're inspiring that next generation. Like, one of those kids that you sign an autograph or give a t-shirt to or something like that, give a torn up chunk of fender to, could be the next Cam Reimers or Ryan Beat or, whatever. Right. So that's pretty, that's major, dude. That's really major.
Yeah, and I think with like the dirt track racing, especially in the Midwest where it's really the hotbed, it's really accessible. So like in the off-road things, we'd see a lot of fans, but how many people get to drive a short course off-road truck or have a team? It's very, very few.
Right.
With IMCA racing, there's 10,000 IMCA racers across the country. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to get, as they get older, to stash money away. There's a lot of entry level classes, like anything ever, even the entry level is getting crazy expensive. But I mean, you get to race a ton around here. I say like from like May, June, July, you could race 7 days a week around me.
Wow.
Your car would fall apart, and you'd fall apart, and you'd run out of money, but you could do it. So it's pretty remarkable how strong dirt track racing is, especially in this area, and it's growing. And yeah, when you see kids come up and they want you to sign the most random thing, or you see them, one of the last races I saw a kid carrying around a bunch of tear-offs, right? And I'm like, man, I remember walking the track here when I was like super young, and I would collect tear-offs and I would bring them home and put them in like a 3-ring binder. Like, so weird, right? That's like a odd thing to do when you grow up, but it's like when you see those kids doing it, you're like, man, I was that kid. I was really into it. And
you really just gave me chills right there. Like, that's that really touched me. I mean, that's so awesome. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but I've seen that progression in other types of motorsports that I've been involved in, and I haven't always been in a situation as a crew chief or car chief or team leader to um, maybe make as good of an impression for the sponsors and to the public um, that you have and you hold and you continue to do. That's so crazy. It's so good.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I see it more as we've been racing dirt track. I see more of myself and a lot of people, and maybe that's as I've gotten older and whatnot. And trust me, when we're racing this amount of races, I always like late July, it's hot. I'm like, this kind of, you start to think like, why am I doing this? This is a lot of work. And then you think about like, you might have a little break in the schedule that might be 4 days off. And by the fourth day, you're like, let's get back, let's go racing. And like the little kid in you comes back out. And I don't know. I try to always set a pretty good example. I've liked with the dirt track racing. It seems that, which honestly, a lot of the racing anymore, it's when I first got in and like into the off road stuff in 2013, it was high pressure. It was
Yeah.
sponsors that you were representing and things. And I felt like everyone was pretty politically correct. I think it's kind of nice to see people move away from that. And I just remember like on social, it was always like political correctness and thanking people and doing this, that, and the other thing, kind of, I'm a Ryan Dungey fan, but like he's pretty dry, like in interviews, and he said all the right things. Right.
Yeah.
And that was that era. And that's always kind of what I tried to do. And now with the dirt track racing stuff, and I just even think social in general, people are just more themselves. And I feel like I've been able to do more of that. It's certainly tough because there's some times that you want to, as it's racing can be emotional. And when you're doing it 70 or 80 nights a year, some of the raw emotion's going to come out. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty chill dude. So that helps me not be too wound up all the time. We always seem to be looking ahead to the next race, if something goes bad. But I don't know. I just feel like when I'm going to the dirt track races, like I'm myself. Like if that's a good thing, great. If it's a bad thing, sorry about it. Like that's just, how I'm going to be.
Yeah, no, but that's the best way to be. I mean, I remember those days, and it is good to see motorsports. You know what? It's my podcast. I can say whatever I want, and people can turn it off if they don't like it. But you're right. It had gotten way too PC. Everybody's being guarded. Everybody's trying to say the perfect thing. And, screw that. I mean, it's racing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I can tell you for a fact, if there'd have been social media around back when I was racing, I'd have been in the shit house every weekend,
Yeah.
But it's like it's good to see the personality coming back, and to that point, we were just right before you came on, Cole and I were talking about, this last weekend at Boise Arena Cross, Kicker Arena Cross. And I'm relatively close to a lot of the Arena Cross guys, at least the ones that are decent guys. And we were talking, I mean, you've probably seen it. You're on social media. Man, there was all kinds of drama last weekend, right? But that's what drives people to the series. So if you're just this dry, non-personality, non-personable racer, like if you have a bunch of those cookie cutter racers, which in some of the big series, I'm not calling any out, but one that starts with N and ends with R, and has a ASCA in the middle. Everybody's like, you got to do this. Like they're all cookie cutter racetracks and cookie cutter racers. And that's not what motorsports needs if it wants to grow.
No, I mean, you look at Kicker Arena Cross right now. I mean, this is the best thing for it. I know David Eller. He used to support us a lot during off road on the Phoenix. You know, it's the Phoenix Honda team now,
Yep.
but Max in construction used to help us out a lot. Great guy. So kind of always followed that and followed KP, just whooping everyone's butt every week at Arena Cross. Dude, this is fun. You start to see his emotion now because he's got Brees and you got Freezy, who's, I mean, we could talk for an hour on Freezy and the stuff that he's done, but at the end of the day, it's freaking good TV. You know what I mean? For you and
really is.
I don't know if I'd like to be in it necessarily because I don't know. We find ourselves, and I know it, you know, no one's ever talked about it, but like we're racing, when I'm racing around here 70 nights, let's say, in 2025, I'm going to race a lot of the same guys every night. Like the main guys I got to beat are traveling with me. If we're going 6 hours to Wisconsin, they're there, you know, and then we're driving over to Minnesota, they're there. And then we're back to Boone Speedway 2 days later, they're there. And you kind of got to think about business decisions a little bit because starting stuff like, dude, it ain't good for, I don't want to work on my stuff more than I have to. I already worked my butt off on my race car. Like, I don't want to tear my stuff up like in a retaliation deal and then have, oh yeah, that guy that I see 70 nights a year, like he's going to get me back, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of like but that's exciting. That's great for the fans, you know? So, and sometimes it's hard to control yourself, but you just, you know, some of that I think you see some of our top racers hold back. It's more just based on that business decision. It's like, if you didn't have to see him for 2 weeks, like have at it. Here's a bumper after the checkered, you know, or flatten a tire or whatever. But it's like, man, I got to race that guy tomorrow, you know? And I have some respect for guys that don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't know if that's me. Like, you know, just cause it's going to even out at some point. And like, I don't know. But that's what I watch like with Arena Cross right now. It's like, man, this thing's going to go back and forth. No one's ever going to get made whole. I don't know how it stops, but and I wouldn't want to be in that circle of Breeze, KP, Vince, you know, Wageman's in it now, but it's like, it's entertaining for us. Have at it, boys.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's just on that topic. And I didn't want to make this all about Arena Cross, but it's a good example of, like you said, it's exciting, right? Now you have Hicks is back and on Rock River Yamaha, which is fast. Politelli is fast this year. You know, and there's like, it's Bitterman has stepped his game up and is fast. And it's like, dude, there's probably 10 guys now on any given night that could win a main, depending on how much muscle they want to put on the two guys in front of them. And like you said, there's a risk involved, you know, not all these guys are factory teams. And for you, it's relative because like for you dirt track guys, I don't know of any, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't watch it like every single, I honestly, I don't watch 70 races a year. I watch what I can get on Ralph Shaheen's Speed Sport 1. Shameless plug for Speed Sport 1. It's great, 24-hour racing. Check it out. Ralph Shaheen's a genius. Love him to death. But, you know, you see those guys, but you don't see a lot of, like, I don't see a factory Chevy team out there, right? I don't see a factory Ford team. I don't see a factory Toyota team. And so for you guys, it's, you know, it's even tougher because it seems like you've got great sponsors, it's great programs, but there's not a factory behind you for R&D development and $1 million a year kind of deal.
Yeah, it's pretty rare, like the step up from us, that would move to the super light models or the winged guys that, the sprint cars. I mean, that's a job. It's a grind for them. There's a lot of profitability that can be there for the driver aspect. For our stuff, not a lot of hired guns, a lot of team owners that also race, and very little of them are doing it for a living. Like, it's a major part of my job, but it's not paying our mortgage. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and we would be we would be in the select 3, 4, 5% that's doing it like that. But if you've got sponsors and you can get it to pencil out that way, and you do all the off track stuff right, which is most of where the value is. I mean, you have to run good just to be able to get that exposure. No one wants to follow a guy that, is 15th all the time, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I think sometimes when we get 15th, if we put a video up about it, like, it's going to get more people watching it just because they're like, haha, he got 15th this weekend, and, but I mean, it's incredibly competitive, and the purses are rising all the time. Like, running for weekly points and state points and national points is a little bit of a thing of the past. Now it's just like, get the support you have, and sometimes the support is just self-funded. A lot of the people are self-employed construction workers, concrete, farming, just things like that, that allow them a little bit of a flexible schedule to take off at, 2 or 3 p.m. and start driving to a race, and then be home and, get up at 5:30 in the morning, get to their job and start doing it again, then head out and go race again. But the purses have gotten better. And if you can pencil out kind of a just, no loss on the race car side of things, and you can put some purse money in your pocket, you can make it work. Like I said, I wouldn't feel comfortable trying to feed the kiddos and stuff like that over it. But I mean, it's pretty fun. You see how, I don't know how exciting it's been recently.
Yeah.
Like, I get asked not all the time, because there's not a lot of people that watch NASCAR. It doesn't seem anymore, but people will be like, oh, do you see NASCAR race? It's like, no. I mean, that's the answer of a lot of the people in the dirt track community, and what do all the NASCAR guys want to do? They want to go race dirt all the time anymore. It's just fun. It's exciting. The fan base is badass. Like, it's just good. And it's, rising tide, floats all boats. It's kind of like the arena cross thing right now. Like, even if it might not be great for the guys in the drama, it's good. You start to, TV goes up, eyeballs go up. Well, now you get some more support. Will you have full factories there? Probably not, but you're going to have some nice, support teams and things like that, and some places for some privateers right now to have some rides and continue their careers and things like that. And, that's kind of where we're at. It's an exciting sport right now. It's quick, it's fast paced, it's exciting. It's not cookie cutter, and everyone kind of wants to be involved. So it's a good deal.
Yeah, that's awesome. And on that not cookie cutter note, you may be at Boone Speedway 50 or 70% of your time racing, but it's dirt. So, if the normal track prep guy gets the flu and you got somebody else out there, it's an entirely different racetrack, right?
Yeah.
If you get a rainstorm midweek where you get 2 inches of rain or something by Friday or Saturday, it's a completely different racetrack again.
Yep. It's ever changing. I don't care how much you race the same place. And we'll race Boone probably around 10 nights a year. It's a good racetrack, good fan base. It's close. It just kind of checks all those boxes, but we don't run all 20 that they have scheduled and things like that. But yeah, a good example is you go to Super Nationals and you have to run, you draw an early heat race and you got to run at 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, dude, you're almost out of you see the locals that, let's say some that just race Boone Speedway. I mean, they can't hit their own ass at 2:30, PM in the afternoon, because it's like, what, my setup for here don't work. And it's like, yeah, it's like
Right.
you see a lot of the travel guys, that are more fortunate to get out and race other tracks. It's like, oh yeah, we know what to do here. Maybe we don't hit perfect, but we got a good idea what we need to do the race car, because this dirt surface right now mimics 141 Speedway in Wisconsin in their main event. That's what we're going out on. Like, you might be able to think of things like that. And it's really unique. You get a good baseline for your car to where you don't have to change a ton, but it's the shapes are all different. The corners are never symmetrical as much as people think.
Right.
Um, they all race different, and they change conditions differently. Some just once the water blows off, or the kind of moisture starts coming out, it'll blow off in 2 or 3 heat races, and it's like slick and dirty and dusty and things like that. And then some racetracks will just hang around forever and they just get clean when they get slick, and they don't lose as much traction, or they take rubber quick. I mean, that's really where a lot of the veterans of dirt track racing, like, a lot of them have that advantage. Like, they just know, all right, I'm 3 races from now. I've been here. I've seen this. I mean,
Right.
your brain's always going. And that's what we started to get better on the car setup stuff. And it's really paid off.
Yeah, and that's a whole another science of its own. When I was crew chiefing in the Pacific Northwest, we ran on basically 5 or 6 of the same tracks every year, several times a year. And for the most part, you knew, like, what right front spring to run, what left rear spring to run, to get you at least close, right? And then you could work from there. But on dirt, I mean, you could literally, you could go out and it could have been the day before, it could have been, blued up and just perfect, or get it up on the cushion. The cushion was just driving you perfect. And for those of you who don't know what a cushion is, Google it as far as dirt track cushion, because we don't have time to explain the whole thing. But, and the next day you go out there and you got to race at 2:30, and it's just a slippery, sandy, dry, dusty mess, right?
Yeah. It's pretty, that part's wild part. And, there's a lot of things you can do in the seat to compensate, but, like, your car's got to be close, and you just can't be out in left field all the time, and you got to anticipate things. And, do dirt in different parts of the country changes, like I said, changes at speeds. Because you're not able to adjust your car. If there's, if you're in Arizona and we're racing winter nationals, there's 30 heat races, and you're watching all the heat races. Well, you can't roll up into staging before your heat race and make your changes. Like, you got to make those 4 or 5 heat races prior, guessing and things like that. And,
Yeah.
that's always tougher. Like, our most run track, like Boone or Stewart or somewhere, like, I can go up and look at it and go, all right, I'm 8 races from now. I'm pretty close on how it's going to look. But once you start going to new places and different parts of the country, it's like that speed changes like crazy. We're lucky we've got this black topsoil, like kind of gumbo dirt, and it does all sorts of different things. And when you go to Yuma, Arizona, and play in the desert, it's just hard to get your brain to start wrapping those things, wrap your brain around those things, and then adjust the car accordingly, and be close enough that you can win the race.
Yeah. And you've had some really good drives this year. I mean, in following you, you've had some great comebacks, if you will. And, also, like, wasn't there a race just not too long ago where you knocked a corner off? Somebody knocked a corner off for you or something, and you still finished like third or fourth or something, or fifth?
Oh, there's so many races. They just all run together. But yeah, we won a ton of races this year, but man,
Yeah.
we didn't lead a lot of laps. We would get run the leader down with a few to go, be fortunate to get a green white checkered when we're in second, and make it happen with a slider on the last lap. They were like the really, really fun ones. It was you know, those are fun. Those are the most fun when you win like that. But sometimes it's nice to just draw the front row and check out, and it's pretty boring for the fans. But like you're never
Yeah.
really that nervous. The ones where you're like looking at the board, you get the 2 to go signal, and you're like, they're too far. Like I'm faster, but they're too far out by the time I've got here to second. And then you hear yellow, yellow on the receiver, and the yellow lights come on, and you're like, here we go, and we just caught a lot of those breaks this year. The stuff that's really out of your control, almost all those cautions landed right on our lap, and those are the ones that you pull back in the pit area with your crew and stuff. And you're like, that was awesome because that was you get the job done, you win. It's exciting fashion for the fans and whatnot, but you're kind of stressing in the car, and you with 2 to go, you're like, yeah, hey, this is just a second place night, not going to happen. And you get lucky and able to capitalize almost every single time. Was quite a good feeling.
Yeah, I know. I saw a lot of race win posts from you this year, and that's pretty cool because it's like, you know, you've been doing it a while now, and you talk about, you know, the veterans that know the tracks. Um, I hate to tell you, dude, but you're becoming one of those veterans, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. There's some of the people I see around just staple dirt track racing. It's like, man, they know more. They forgot more than I know and whatnot. But my knowledge is really accelerated over the last couple years, and that's what's given us the shot to win every night. Because I would say my driving's maybe gotten a little bit better, but like I'm never the car. I don't nail the setup all the time, but I'm never way off. And prior I used to be like I just wouldn't hit it right. I just didn't understand it enough. And the understanding is one of the crazier parts. There's only a handful of wheelmen that can really get it done with poor equipment. And we're witnessing a guy like Kyle Larson now and whatnot that can hop into anything. I mean,
Right.
I can't explain to you how rare that is. Like
Yeah.
getting in a new car, like let's say the exact same class I'm racing, just getting in a new chassis, like that's an adjustment. And this guy's going from asphalt NASCAR to wing sprint car to hopping a super late model, then his midget. And it's just like, it's unbelievable, and I'm a firm believer that a lot of the guys that are at, not to mention Boone Speedway, race a lot of other tracks, but like there's guys that, the guy that owns a concrete company that races at Boone Speedway might be one of the top race car drivers in the country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not ragging on the NASCAR guys, but because they're all great drivers too. But I think if you could pool everyone together, there's a lot of talent in local dirt track racing that you just don't think of because it's kind of grassroots. There's sometimes that it's kind of redneck and things like that. And it's, it doesn't have that polished feel that a NASCAR race does. But man, there is some talent there, and it's quite humbling when you come in and you think, oh, I'm a good race car driver. I can go beat that guy. And it's like, no, you can't. Like that guy's really good. He doesn't fit the mold of a young up and coming race car driver that you see on the internet or on TV, but the dude can wheel. The dude understands race car geometry and physics, and good luck beating him, man. And maybe I'll be that old guy someday and whooping up on kids that come in and think that, oh, I can beat that old guy. And
Right.
it's pretty amazing.
Well, and you touched on it a couple of 3 times now while we're talking, but race car geometry and stuff. I don't want to get into all the specifics because I don't think a lot of the fans care too much about the specifics. But when I was talking to you at SEMA about your car and the amount of like body roll that you guys work with now, and I mean, folks, if you haven't checked out, go to your favorite sports streaming channel or just go to Cam's social media at Cam Reimers 21 on Instagram or Cam Reimers Motorsports on Facebook and check out some of the videos. Dude, like how's that feeling? I mean, you're going in, you're getting how many inches of body rise? Left rear?
I mean, our left rear, it feels we got so much chain drop in the left rear now that it feels like you raise, a foot and a half up in the seat. It lifts you up,
Yeah.
and if the car's down on the right front, more than it ever is, has been, we're still kind of rolling back on the right rear on exit, a decent amount, but yeah, it's crazy if you got in it. My dad's driven the car around like y'all before
Yeah.
we load or something, and he's like, dude, like this thing sounds like it's about to fall apart. Like rear end's shaking back and, moving back and forth, left to right, up and down with every throttle hit, just bouncing, through the yard or whatnot. And I'm like, it gets smoother. Like when you're flying, it doesn't feel like that. But yeah, if you just drove it around, like the thing, it's, you watch a sprint car idle on caution laps, the front wheels are doing
Oh
this, and
yeah.
then they pick up the throttle and they're smooth, and ours is kind of like that with left rear hike and left rear hikes up. The whole rear end basically tries to exit the car to the left side of the car.
Yeah.
It's just wild. And yeah, you were talking to me on some setup stuff that you did for asphalt. And I'm like, that is pretty much the exact opposite of what we would do.
Yeah.
Um, 2 race cars turning left, one on dirt, one on asphalt. And it's like, yeah, if we did that, it would make the problem like way worse, or you wouldn't even be able to hardly pick up the throttle when it goes green if we did that.
Yeah, a car probably wouldn't turn left on the dirt at all.
Yeah.
You'd be off the berms. But yeah, no, it's just crazy to me, like how much and just the progression of it. Um, they kind of the IMCA, if you will, spec motor racer was just about the time I was getting out of racing, at least circle track racing. They were just starting to get super popular in the Pacific Northwest, and they were running them on pavement, which has got to be a whole nother deal on top of it too. But you look at those cars, even on dirt, compared to where you guys are now, the progression over a very short time has been like insane.
Yeah. I've got a guy that helps me on our crew, and he used to run around with his cousin, who was really good, dirt modified guy 10, 12 years ago. And since he's kind of got hooked up with me, he basically, started his life as he got older, went on, did his own stuff as his cousin stopped racing. And since we met, he's been going to the racetrack and whatnot. And he's like, this is insane. He's like, this is nothing like how we did it, 10 or 12 years ago. They were big motors, and they had traction on braking, get the car rotated, and then drag race back the other way. And there was no speed in the middle of the corner. And now we're just floating all over the place. We don't really have, I bet you we're going 5 mile an hour slower down the straightaway than what they were 10 years ago. But our speed through the center of the corner is so fast that it just drops lap times. Like, and our adjustments on the cars, like, he's like, we had the same set of shocks. And he's like, we would leave them on the car for every racetrack at every race throughout the night, heat race, A main, whatever, hot laps for all year, like never even take them off. And, we're changing 3 shocks a night, like
Wow.
just as a track changes and things like that. And it's the old school part of me would like us to get back to a little bit more horsepower, but we don't got it now. So it's chassis tuning. We're even slightly into, I shouldn't say slightly. It's not like IMCA listens to this rule. Or listens to this. Maybe they will, but I don't want it to make it sound like aero's a big deal, because we're not going super fast. A smaller track like Stewart Speedway or Boone, like going 80, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a lot, but when you're limited on horsepower, like, you're looking for everything. So we're all pushing the body rules and things like that to try to have as much traction as you can, to have as much sideboard through the center of the corner, roll it up on the spoiler. Us open motor guys got our spoilers cut for next year. So we're even more in the shop trying to like get the aero of the cars better.
Right.
Now everyone that's watched dirt track racing, you can get in a first lap incident, wrinkle a cord or a door, and it really doesn't matter. But, we try to at least pay attention to it and, take it seriously.
Dude, it's important. I mean, even way back when on pavement, the right side of my cars, providing somebody didn't wrinkle them up for us, or the driver didn't put it in the wall or something, the right side, I worked really hard to keep very clean, smooth. For general purposes, smooth is the word I'm looking for, not clean. The left side, I intentionally dirtied it. It had, hardcore vice grip, roll out fender flares. And I mean, some of those cars we were only running 60 at the end of the straight, and some of them we were running upwards in the 90s on some of the bigger tracks. And every little bit, like we were trying to turn left on pavement, when you started to go left, if there was dirtier air on the left side, the car was dragging left anyways, in my opinion. So, it is I'm a firm believer in that, and working with, within the rules as they're written to make things as advantageous to yourself as possible. How's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Going back to PC.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's there. That's even like our left rear drop that we're talking about and whatnot. I mean, a lot of that has to do with car roll and left rear bar angle to drive off the left rear on exit and things like that. But like, we're also trying to get that freaking spoiler as high in the air as we can, and the deck is skewed and up in the air, and
Right.
you're trying to catch all of that air, bank it off of the decking, and it's just crazy to think like, what used to just be like hammer track fenders and whatever you could throw on. It didn't matter because you were drag racing back and forth. And now it's like everyone's bodies are nice. The noses are sealed to the ground to where you can't hop the cushion. You hop the cushion now and you fold the nose under and your race is over, because we're all so concerned about getting that extra, 500ths out of the nose being sealed that you can get out of it. But it makes a difference. If no one
Yeah.
did it, maybe I wouldn't care so much, but everyone's just trying to get everything they can out of the race cars right now, because the middle of the corner speed is so incredibly fast.
That's crazy. Just the progression. That's just amazing. And I'm with you. I think I think more motorsports need to get the horsepower back all the way up to NASCAR. And I'm even Formula One, like, give them the horsepower, take away some of the electronics. Let's see who can really drive,
Yeah. Yeah. With our technology and understanding of the race cars now, I mean, more horsepower would just make us go faster, which would be great. I mean, I'd love that. But the stuff that I don't think it would take away our middle of the corner setups that they used to forget about 15 years ago.
Right.
We would just accentuate that. We wouldn't drag race as much back and forth. But it's just wild. Like, we don't run the GM crate option. We have before. There's a lot of advantages to it. It's not a very big horsepower making power plant, but in the dirt, sometimes it's just about how the car makes power. and it makes power in a very good way. But we run the open motor just because, I don't know, it has been a slight advantage recently. It's definitely not the dry slick. But a lot of it's like when I started up in the shop, or he started up and put some heat in it before hot laps or a heat race, like, thing sounds like a freaking race car.
Right.
Before we had the crate motor in, you'd have the thing started up behind the trailer, and I'd be like dressed, and I'd have to ask anybody, like, is our car running? I can't hear it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a pickup truck motor. Like, it's not a race car motor, like
Right.
it's not cool. I want the thing to bark and sound like there's really not much difference in horsepower between the two. But like the one, if you close your eyes and, you'd be like, wow, that car's going 3 times as fast as that other car just for the sound of it,
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, yeah. That's the sound of a true gearhead and racer talking right there. Is I was blessed enough to do a lot of racing when there weren't decibel rules, and there weren't we got to have program wrapped by 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock because otherwise the neighbors get mad. We did end up racing into probably the last 2 years I ran at our home track in Spanaway, Washington, which I think is condos now, unfortunately. We did have to have a program wrapped by 11 o'clock at night because they built up so much around it that people complained if you were running, loud cars at 11:30 at night. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I want to hear something bark. I want to hear the horsepower. I mean, I want to see it and feel it, but I want to hear it too.
Yeah. No, that's a standard deal. That's kind of like where the Arizona's lost some tracks, and they have to have mufflers at racetracks and stuff now. And, people building around racetracks and complaining about the sound is just,
Yeah.
it's stupidity, if you ask me. And that's just not even from a racer standpoint, just in general. That's one thing that seemed to be, we're pretty safe from in the Midwest and in Iowa. It's not because no one wants to live here. Someone might make that joke, but it's just kind of embedded in the communities around here. I mean, there are so many communities, Knoxville, Iowa, place like that.
Yeah.
That place thrives for 2 weeks of the year for sprint car nationals,
It
super nationals,
probably
Speedway. Yeah,
economy-wise, it probably makes their entire year in that city.
yep. But you get around somewhere like, Phoenix or whatnot that's lost some tracks. No one
Yeah.
cares there. They don't care what the racers that, a guy like me that travels from Iowa and, spends a bunch of money there, trying to live and race for a month or 2 months. Like, they don't care,
Yeah.
it's not a concern to them. And, but, here in Iowa, the communities, we got a lot of, like Iowa's it's not desolate.
Right.
It's rural, but you drive 6, 7 miles and you got a new town, but the town might only be 1,000 people. And
Right.
that's just how it is the entire way. And those people understand that. You understand, you look at some of the bar and grills when a race rains out or whatnot. It's like, that's the best thing that happened, that local bar and grill.
Yeah.
People head over there and grab a bite to eat and beer before they head home. And, some of those things, I just think you're never safe, but it feels quite a bit, more secure back here. And it's good for me living here, but I do miss being able to travel and string together a bunch of races at a bunch of different new racetracks. It's starting to become a little bit harder out there out west, and at least in the Southwest area. So
Yeah, and it's a shame, and hopefully some in the next year you'll get some relief on fuel costs and some of that kind of stuff that'll allow you to travel more, for sure. And with purses increasing and stuff like that, in the direction you're heading, hopefully it'll help you be even more successful for sure. One thing I do, you are the team owner, the crew chief, the mechanic, and the driver, basically.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a lot of the dirt track racers. You dang near got to be that. If you want to race, it's like you better learn the other stuff first, and you better have the balls to go spend the money to get started, and some belief in yourself and some work ethic, and from there it looks really fun and easy when you get to the racetrack. But it's all stuff you don't see. And my wife says that all the time. She's like, you need to just post like all your tough evenings or whatnot in the shop of like struggling and fixing things and things like that. And it's like the unpolished stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I try to do more of that. Cause yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert mechanic. I've worked on all my own stuff basically throughout racing. But you're always learning. You're learning of ways to swap a motor quicker, ways to, do shocks and things like that. And it's, you're always learning.
Yeah.
When I, take a little bit of a wider angle at what I'm doing, it's like, oh, I do a pretty good job at all this stuff. But when I'm in it, I'm like, I always feel like I need to be a better mechanic. I need to be a better driver. I need to be a better car setup guy. But then I'm like, all right, we're doing it. We're doing it pretty good. But yeah, you just always find yourself wanting more, wanting to learn more. And sometimes, the stuff that you don't know just makes you kind of forget and lose confidence in all the crap that you do know. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
been there with race cars when, a certain car you might just be struggling with and whatnot. And you start to lose all confidence in knowing what the heck you're doing. And then you start stumbling back across it and you just start rolling again. And it's like, all right, there we go. But there was a minute there where I'm like, do I even know what I'm doing here? Like, this makes no
Yeah.
sense to me now. I laying in bed after a race, and it's like, why can't I get my car to turn in like, the guy that won? Like, what's my issue? And
Yeah.
that stuff makes you want to call the crew guys up. I'm pretty lucky that my dad still goes and helps me at the racetrack, and I've got a few buddies that come. But yeah, there's sometimes after a night where you don't run very well and you stay awake and thinking about things, it's like, you guys want to load up and go haul over to wherever, Vinton, Iowa, here on a Sunday and go race there? Because it's like you're trying to learn. You want that redemption, and it's just kind of funny how that starts to play out in the dirt track world when we have the access to so many tracks and things like that. It's like, well, let's not think about it. Let's try it.
Yeah. I was laughing so hard because I've been in that situation where, we had a multi-car team in different classes. So it's like, our street stock, our super stock ran, within like 100th of a second of track record and set pole that night. And the $750 claimer car couldn't turn left if its life depended on it. And I'm setting up both cars and I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like, how can I not set up this old beat up piece of junk when that car I just did just went really fast?
Yeah.
Like, I give up. And it's like, you got to be missing, you dummy. You got to be missing something really simple or something like that. It's frustrating. I feel it.
It's crazy. I've just, you try to always, and not to get into too much setup talk on this pod, but yeah, I always try to back up through the corner a little bit with where I'm struggling. Cause it's like a lot of times you don't need the traction that you think you need off in the slick. It's because you're not getting in and through the center good enough. You're having to, you don't notice it because you're driving it just how the car wants to be driven. But if you could carry more momentum in and through the center, I always tell people, it's like, I'll have 10% less traction if you give me 10 more mile an hour on exit. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't need it. And since we've kind of adapted that, you just start floating around. And again, you start talking aero, and, the sprint car guys talk about that all the time. Wing speed. Like they just need to get somewhere where they can carry speed in, and then the wing pins them down. But if they don't have enough traction in, they got to slow down their wing speed, and downforce ends, and it's over.
Yeah, for sure. And on those wing cars, man, I saw a clip just not too long ago where a guy was pulling the front end. I saw a mod not too long ago that was pulling the left front most of the front stretch, which I was super impressed. That was pretty rad. I didn't realize that those chassis moved that much and transferred that well. Sprint cars, you see it all the time, but this guy was getting a great drive out, and the wing folded up. The side panel on the wing folded, and dude, that thing snapped and rolled like, like a Twinkie at a fat boy party.
Yeah, I would say, it's not just our racing. Every style of racing now is like, it's just next level. It's
Yeah.
people that are, and I think some of that, whether it's cost and things like that, it's like, all right, what I was doing for fun as a weekend warrior deal, if I'm doing this for fun and spending this amount of money, I want to do better. And
Yeah.
everyone just started up in their game. And it's like, I think about that every year. And there was a guy that unloaded with a new race car at the end of the year. And all of us kind of top guys were really, it was really fun. We're all like kind of even, and you're always working to try to get more and more. Well, this guy unloaded a new car, and it looked like, dang, that's the new step. You know what I mean? Like, and you
Yeah.
just start going back years, and you're like, man, if I'd bring my car that's sitting down here, if I'd take that back 2 years ago, it wouldn't lose. You know what I mean?
Right.
But now it's like, man, it's a struggle to win. It's just
Yeah.
really hard, and it's just everything's so competitive. Everyone's gained more knowledge. It's snowballed. Seems like the effort of people that race is, I don't know if it was ever low, but God, it seems like people put a lot of work in now.
Well, and you've done a great job of hitting the podium a lot this year and hitting that top step a ton. Fantastic. And something I want to, you talked about your wife giving you a hard time, about your social media and your dad helping you out. Something that we definitely need to talk about is your family involvement and bringing the family to the racetrack. I see your pictures, I see your social media. I met your beautiful wife, amazing person, and it's great to see the whole family there. I mean, you got your daughter wiping down wheels, and I mean,
Yeah.
dude, that's so cool. And there's a lot of us, in my particular situation, I pretty much got out of racing when we had the triplets. So I had a daughter and I planned on staying racing. And then we had triplets, and it's like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. There's no time. But there's a lot of guys like me who had kids who've kind of had to step away, and to see you, it like focus on the family and the family atmosphere while you're at the track. Dude, that's really special.
Yeah, it's a little bit more eye opening. Like once we had our first daughter, he's 5 now.
Yeah.
My dad been racing with me since the first time that I finally talked him into taking me to a race with my 1988 Blaster. I'm like, we're going. I think I'm pretty good. Let's go. And we drove and slept in the truck, in the back of a pickup truck. And on the way, we were able to win that first race. And he's like, I want you to know, like, that was just for fun. He's like, we don't have the money to keep doing it. And he's like, you'll get addicted. He's like, you'll never want to race, or you'll want to race forever. And I'm like, no,
Yep.
no, just let me maybe do another one for fun, and look at it now. It's like,
Yeah.
but he's been with me, through all the steps. He helped me a lot on the off-road side of things. He was one that bought in and helped financially when I was like, hey, this is what I want to do from the ATV motocross thing. I'm going to pool all my money together. Would you like to do anything? I think we can make this work. And he's like, all right, let's go at it. And he had a lot of pride, I think, in really helping that program out. And since then he's just been really helpful at the track and things like that. And I don't know, it's just nice to see him involved and whatnot, as much as plenty of people probably witnessed him and I argue at the racetrack and whatnot. But, we do enjoy it. And a lot of I appreciate a lot of the time, now that I have a 5-year-old that goes there, and I don't think she's really into racing, but she loves going to the racetrack. Same with her dirt bike. Like, I don't think she's ever wants to race, but she wants to ride all the time on the pit bike track. So who knows? She's just loving it. I like having her there. We're not able to get her to every race. Same with Hannah. Hannah used to come to every single one. Well,
Yeah.
2 kids and her now. Hunter always says, I go to one, then I don't go to one. Then I go to one, then I don't. So that's the deal. You just alternate.
Yeah.
And but a lot of these tracks, they shoot, like Boone's 9 miles. They drive separate, and when it's time to leave, they leave, and right after the feature, and it just works. I don't know. This is definitely the most fun I've had racing throughout all my career. Like, I put pressure on myself, but like, I'm just having a ton of fun, and I feel like we always are getting better, and it's good people to be around. And yeah, the family aspect's quite a big deal to me. And I think to them too, it's just kind of been something that's always held our family together, is my racing. So it is cool.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and I would love to see more racers get their families involved. And it's funny, a lot of the way back in my Muzzies days, a lot of the racers, off-road racers, side-by-side racers that I worked with, that were kids, right? Like, literally young kids are now adults and grown adults and having kids and still racing. So I'm hopeful for that next generation that y'all are bringing along, and bringing to the racetrack every weekend or every other weekend, for the continuation of the things that we love. So it's to me, it's a great example. And it's probably for you, I imagine there is some probably self checkup, because there's some
Yeah.
times when you're going to be frustrated that you got to go, there's a 5-year-old watching me.
Yeah, I just it was funny. I got the motorhome down here working on some stuff. Got it backed in because it's cold as heck. And when I hopped in the driver's seat, there was a note from my daughter from the last race. And she can write her letters, so you could tell mom helped her spell it out or whatnot.
Right.
But it was a note that said, "Sorry you didn't win. We didn't run very good at the last race. Just we weren't good enough." And she's like, "Sorry you didn't win. I'm still proud of you. I love you." And you're like, "Oh man, like that's totally different than before her." I'd just go home and I'd stew on it the whole way home, like that 9th place mattered when it really
Right.
doesn't. You know what I mean? Like no one cares besides me. Really.
Right.
And yeah, to see that, it's just like so proud all the time when she gets into victory lane, or even when she doesn't. And there's a
That's
lot of
awesome.
life lessons, especially some that I don't know, if my dad raced, maybe I would have seen some of these life lessons and didn't have to go through them all on my own, where it's like, dude, you don't have to win all the time. You're going to mess up. Like, you're going to mess up a ton. You're going to have a ton of mistakes. Like, just don't do them twice, and make sure you're learning from them and just being better. Like, just be better than you were the last time. As a whole, your finished position might not always be there, and you start to instill that. And she's got her new KTM, and she's ridden that around. She just got it last week and crashed and crying and stuff like that. But I'm like, do you want to quit and go inside? No. And been watching NFR rodeo here from Las Vegas, and she loves the bull riders that got bucked off and stepped on the night before, and they're back out there. And she just like starting to understand that a little bit more. And I don't know if before I matured, if I could have had a little bit more of that, like, really stick to things and don't be so frustrated because you aren't good at it. Like, a lot of people, there's very few people that are just super talented at something and they don't have to work for it. Like that's
Right.
very few, you see them and you see them at big games or big competitions or whatever, or races. And you're like, oh yeah, they're lucky. It's like, dude, they've put in their time. They've
Yeah.
struggled through all this crap, and that's why they're better than other people it didn't bring them down. They didn't, I don't know. You got to stay pretty calm too. Like I try not to get real upset on the race car or with things. It's just like, let's try to learn for next time. And I don't know. I see her starting to understand some of that stuff, and that's probably the most rewarding part about having her there.
That's awesome. That is rad. I know we're pushing up on time here. Um, I didn't want to hold you too long because I know it is a Thursday afternoon. You probably have chores to do, and I'm guessing it's what, 5:15 your time?
6:15. So the Iowa,
Okay.
the Iowa State game here starts in 15 minutes, and we
Oh,
don't we don't get professional sports like you guys do in Iowa, so we got to get behind the college teams.
you know what? I watch 10 times more. I do not watch the NFL. I've stepped away from the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, soccer, NASCAR, until everybody grows a set of that Saturday night dirt track balls that you and I were talking about. They don't really interest me. It's like, yeah, I can watch whatever I want, you know?
Yep. Yep. No, there's I think I think a lot of people would be a lot better off if they had that mentality that a lot of the people, fans and drivers that have on a Saturday night at a dirt track. It's like I don't know. There's just a lot of passion. There's a lot
Yeah,
of, stick up for yourself, stick up for your brothers, your
yep,
sisters, things like that. Um,
absolutely.
and then, cheers at the end of the night and enjoy it and be grateful that you're living and able to do this sort of racing deal. And I don't know, so much other stuff don't even matter anymore when you really think about it. So
Well,
yeah,
and you know, you, you're one of the very, when you really look at it, it's like I get to go racing as part of my living. Like, okay, you're not making a $10 million contract every year, but it's part of what you do. Um, and I look at that all the time for myself. I get to go to these races,
yeah,
as a retired racer and semi-retired crew chief and or at least retired motorcycle racer. I don't know about the rest yet. We're still open, um, but I look at it. It's still my attachment to racing. I'm like, you know, this is part of what I do for a living. How
yeah.
blessed am I?
Yeah, that's what Hannah kind of asked me. Is there something you want to do next? Like, kind of for us, the natural progression would be going super late model racing and touring on the World of Outlaws or Lucas Oil Series or Flow. And I mean, that task is extremely daunting. Like the financial spend is the first thing that you got to get over, and then
Sure.
you think you're going to compete with them guys, like good luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta have belief, but then you gotta be realistic. Like, okay, what's the best we can do here? It's like, man, if you could crack like into the top 10 or 12, and then it's like, man, at that sort of spend, am I gonna be having fun? And I'm gonna be away from the family again and stuff like that. And just makes my blood pressure go up just thinking about you got to make it happen here. Like you're in trouble. You could lose it all,
Yeah,
and, forget about how I'd even come up with the money to get started doing that. I'm like, I'm pretty blessed right now to be able to sleep in my own bed, enjoy time with my kids, race an ungodly amount of races, that is, as much as it feels like a burden, in July when it's 100 degrees out, it's quite the blessing. Cause like,
for sure.
how many other people get to do this? There's every single, most of the people watching in the stands or on live stream, they would trade spots with you in a heartbeat. And like,
Oh, yeah.
you can't forget about that when you're like, dude, we stunk tonight. I'm hot. I'm dirty. We broke stuff on the car. It was expensive. It's like, still those people would trade that in a heartbeat. They would love to be in that position right there. So I don't know. I don't see a bunch of movement in me in the future. Just try to keep growing as a person, try to grow our social channels, try to grow as a racer. And um, I'm pretty lucky. You know, obviously the involvement with Kicker, they've been there the longest. You know, since 2015, that puts them, or 2014, puts them
10
10,
years,
11 years. Yeah.
almost 11 year. Yeah. 11 years.
And I've got a lot of other people that have been there a long time, like Gunk and Mystic and those people. And, you know, as long as I'm able to keep them happy and hold up my end of the bargain, pretty fun gig right now.
Yeah. And you do have some great sponsors. Before we get to that full list, you know, I am one of those people that watches it that would gladly trade places with you any Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night. Wishing I could, you know. So it's funny just touching on it. Had this almost identical discussion with Scotty Dubler, the voice of American Flat Track and other race series, yesterday, because I was listening to his podcast Off the Groove, and I caught an episode where he had talked to one of the Super Twins riders about Sturgis TT, and is kind of poo-poo on the Sturgis TT, and which a lot of riders were, because it was different, right? They raced pavement and dirt, not dirt and dirt, and the head jumps, and he was kind of like, you know, this and that. And I told Scotty, I said, you know, bottom line, I would race a crappy Sturgis TT on a crappy bike any day of the week over like being sitting in my chair at home in front of the computer working, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
some of these guys lose focus. You have not, and that's awesome.
I can't say I haven't lost it. Definitely at times. You just gotta remind yourself. It's pretty lucky.
Yeah, for sure. Been there. All right, list of sponsors, because we got to get through that for sure.
Oh, I'll try to rattle them off off the top of my head.
All
Kicker.
those victory celebrations this year, you should have it memorized, dude.
Yeah. Kicker, Mystic, Gunk, Vision Wheel, Rugged Radios, JRM Construction, Central Iowa Diesel Performance, Peak Decals, Aeromotive, Dynamic Drivelines, Carroll Chiropractic, Hyperco, BHE, and AFCO Shocks, White Snake, Zamp. There's a lot. We've got a lot of people, a lot of product people that help us out. Yeah, I'm very grateful for them, and try to keep this thing up front as much as we can.
For sure. And you know what? On top of having some great partners, you're a great representative for them. So, and that goes a long ways, especially in today's day and age. You know, it's and you do have some great. I'm not just saying that because Kicker is a sponsor of ours also, and that obviously I work with them quite a bit. But they're a great company, and Mystic and Gunk, and you know, just huge names in the industry and great companies. So with that, Cam, special shout outs.
Oh, I think we talked about them a little bit. You know, my family, my wife, my dad, you know, two big parts, Andy and Chase, crew guys and whatnot. And, you know, Bob Harris at BHE really helped us in this new BHE car that we've been running, and kind of gave me a shot in that thing. And it's been really good. I don't know. There's a lot of people, anyone that's listening to this, you know, obviously loves motorsports, and it's rarely the guy that's, kind of the face of it that's putting in a lot of work. Everyone's making sacrifices, everyone's doing their job. And yeah, I'd like to continue to try to keep doing this a little bit longer. We'll see. Every year I feel like I'm getting closer to the end, but I don't know. I'm having fun that you just kind of seem to find ways to continue making it go, so who knows?
Well, you're still landing on the podium. You're still landing on the top of the podium a lot. So, as the program grows, as everything changes and you continue to change with it, I'm pretty sure you will probably be at one point one of those old guys,
Well,
helping the new kids. So
yeah, I know that a bucket list item I'd like to do if I could ever swing it one time is down in kicker country, is running the Chili Bowl, getting a midget program put together for that. So that is my one thing that I do want to check off the bucket list before I'm done. Maybe one year we can make that happen.
That'd be rad. Man, thank you so much.
Seriously, thank you for your time, Cam. It's a big deal.
No problem. Thanks, Cole. Thank you.
Right on. Cameron? Cam?
Yeah.
I know your real name's Cameron, but everybody calls you Cam. Once again, the social media stuff. Do you have a website?
We've got our Shopify website that we've got updated with. It's pretty light right now because for one time, we actually ran out of all of our apparel, or most all of it, at the last event. It never seems to time out like that. So the online site will start to get fired up here again soon to buy apparel and things like that, which is a big part of like supporting any of the dirt track racers. It's very common. It's very well supported by fans. Whether it's me, I don't care, but support somebody. It really helps you get up and down the road. So that'll be firing off. You can just Google Cam Reimers and Shopify or Cam Reimers Motorsports, and it pops up. And yeah, the Facebook side of things, there'll be a lot of race updates there, and Instagram things will lead you into some of the farming and things like that we do back here in Iowa, farming corn and soybeans. And yeah, I'd love to have you following along, and appreciate everyone that listens, and you too, Lauren. It's been nice to know you over the years and our relationship.
Yeah, absolutely has been great. I'm so thankful that, Kicker put us together to begin with, and I am a fan for sure. And the Facebook, Cam Reimers Motorsports, the Instagram at Cam Reimers 21, right?
Yep, you got her.
Okay, good. Folks, hit him up. Slide into his DMs over there and say, hey, we heard you. Get that apparel up because we want to support you. We want to help you out.
We'll get it up.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, Cam. I appreciate all your time, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
As we approach lap 100 here, I really feel that we need more circle track talk like that.
Bro, that was good. That was good. And I'll work on that. I know a few people. I'll work on that. But, what a great guy. And the whole family, and what a great story. It seems like so many of our guests, we hear the story. They started, their dad helped them, or their stepdad or whatever helped them get, some kind of 50, whether it was a Pee-wee or a Z, and, and then made them work to get their next bike, and just continue to grow in motorsports. Cam's a great guy, and really puts out a fantastic image for all his sponsors, and does a good job at the racetrack too. So we're very fortunate. Very, very fortunate. So with that, we need to wrap up lap 100 of Mad Dog's After Show. You have been along for the ride with the Mad Dog and the incredible Mr. Cole, the Premix Podcast Farrell. And please support the people that support us, Kicker Performance Audio, Kicker Off-Road Audio, Kicker Premium Audio, Kicker Marine Audio, Kicker Personal Audio. Find them online, kicker.com, on Facebook, Kicker, on Instagram, at Kicker Audio, every other Tuesday night live on their TV show, Kicker Unmasked Live, on Facebook, YouTube, and X. Of course, Bomber Safety Eyewear, Bomber Floating Eyewear, Bomber Super Cool Eyewear, Bomber Mad Dog Approved Eyewear, over 40 styles of frames, unbelievable amount of lens combinations. Get them in everything from polarized and ANSI 87 OSHA approved safety lenses to mirrored to whatever you need. BomberEyewear.com, on Instagram at Bomber Eyewear. Of course, the Premix Podcast, Cole doing his amazing work behind the scenes for us, in front of the scenes for us, and sharing his passion for all things desert racing through the lens of a camera. Find him on Instagram at the Premix Podcast. That's the at symbol, ThePremixPodcast. Slide into his DMs, hit him up, and say, hey. I also forgot to mention Bomber Eyewear, when you're in their checkout, be sure and use that code MAddOG20. Let them know Mad Dog sent you. Of course, Kelsey Morrell Film. Find her on Instagram at Kelsey Morrell Film. If you need social media, you need a website. Yell, Hey Keeks, or find her on the webs, heykeeks.com, or on Instagram at Hey Keeks Marketing. Cole, do the speech.
Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe on your absolute favorite streaming platform.
Man, so beautiful. Thank you so much, Cole. Thanks again to Mr. Cam Reimers. And thank you to our incredible fans. Our growth is amazing. I just got a notification that we have grown almost 40% listenership in 2024 from Spotify alone. So thank you all so very much. We appreciate it. Share us out with your friends. You can find us on Instagram at AFTR_podcast. With that, God bless you, our fans. God bless our service people all around the world. God bless our veterans. God bless our first responders. God bless America. Mad Dog out.